President Trump did some random radio show here. I don't even know who this person is. But he said something that blew up a little bit online because, I mean, it really just, he unmasks himself and he unmasks DC here, and he doesn't even realize it. So listen to what President Trump said on Israel.
Well, you know, the biggest change I've seen in Congress is Israel literally owned Congress. You understand that 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And it was so powerful. It was so powerful. And today it's almost the opposite. You have between AOC and Omar and these people that hate Israel. They hate it with a passion. They're controlling Congress, and Israel is not a force in Congress anymore. It's just amazing. I've never seen such a change. And we're not talking about over a very long period of time. But I think you know exactly what I'm saying. They had such power. Israel had such power, and rightfully, over Congress, and now it doesn't. It's incredible.
That is an astonishing admission. So there's one thing he says there that's completely factually false and absurd. And there's another thing which does reflect a reality, and his feelings on it are noteworthy. He said Israel, quote, rightfully owned Congress. Rightfully? A foreign country rightfully owned Congress. Imagine he said that shit about Russia. Russia rightfully owns Congress. The meltdown that Democrats would be having would be legendary. It'd be the main issue in the news for like 2 or 3 weeks. Donald Trump confirms he's Vladimir Putin's puppet. He says about Israel, only in lefty circles online and some heterodox right-wing circles did it blow up. Donald Trump says Israel rightfully owned Congress. Rightfully. America first! What I really mean is Israel first, because they rightfully owned our legislative body. That's not America first, dog. That is Israel first. That's what that is. That's exactly what that is. Nobody can argue otherwise. Nobody. So he said Israel rightfully owned Congress. Well, I'm an old school lefty. I am of the belief America first. I want Medicare for all in this country. I want free college in this country. I want a living wage in this country. I want unions in this country. I want to end the corruption in this country. He ain't no America first. Israel rightfully owned Congress. Astonishing thing to say. Now, the thing he says that's obviously absurd is, well, they owned Congress. They were really powerful, but now they don't. They have a lot of sway over our politics. A lot. Now, I would say the power the Israel lobby has is maybe equal to the power that the Saudi lobby has. I'd say the power Israel has over Congress is equivalent to that of the power multinational corporations have over Congress and the military-industrial complex. But they certainly have just as much sway as ever, if not more. If not more. He brings up, you got Tlaib and Omar. They've changed the game now, Israel doesn't own Congress anymore. There's a handful of Democrats who are correct on this issue, who point out AIPAC money sways politicians. That's not anti-Semitic to point it out. It's factual. In the same way Saudi money influences politicians, that's not Islamophobic to point that out. So, are we forgetting? We already fund Iron Dome to the hilt. We already do a multi-billion-dollar weapons giveaway to Israel. We already subsidize them every year. And then on top of that, we added, another billion or 10 billion or whatever it was recently. And AOC even did the cowardly vote of present. She changed her vote from no on more Iron Dome funding to present. Cowardly. There's only a handful of Democrats who were on the right side of it. Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, I forget the others. I forget the other. I don't even remember how the others voted. But there was only a handful of Democrats. You could count them on 1 or 2 hands who voted the right way on that shit. And Trump says Israel used to own Congress, but they don't own it anymore. And even the slightest deviation from the status quo is holy hell is rained down on you. You're called anti-Semitic. They say you want to wipe out the Jews. If you just say, I don't want to do more Iron Dome funding, extra Iron Dome funding. I mean, we give Israel money. They have universal health care. We don't. Maybe they should give us money. How about that? Donald Trump, Israel rightfully owned Congress. Jesus Christ. By the way, I do think Trump has lost a step, by the way. In 2016, he ran a fake populist campaign, which got him in the White House. Now, he wasn't a real populist because he didn't deliver on the promises. He was a fake populist. He mixed in fake populism with rampant xenophobia. Total and complete shutdown of Muslims. The immigrants coming here, Mexicans coming here, are criminals. They're rapists. I assume some are good people. So he ran on both xenophobia and ultranationalism along with fake economic populism. He lost a step or two since he was in office, because his 2020 campaign was all personal grievance, narcissism, more culture war tripe. And I don't think 2015 or 16 Trump would have said some shit like this. I think now he's got DC brain himself. And so he's all narcissism, and he ends up saying shit like this. Remember when Trump argued that, like, Saudi Arabia did 9/11 and they're the problem and we need to, like, divorce them effectively? That's pre-DC Trump. Sometimes he'd say some shit like that, which is true. Post-DC Trump says shit like this. Israel rightfully owned Congress. It's because he's surrounded by people who feel like Israel should rightfully control our politics. When he was in DC, a lot of people in his staff, standard right-wing position and standard corporate Democratic position is, it's great that Israel and Saudi Arabia have a lot of sway over our system. This should have been bigger news. That's for sure. If you want to see me and Crystal Ball interview legends like Noam Chomsky, Cornel West, and more, subscribe to Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack. $5 a month gets you the video version a day early. Remember, we take 0 ad dollars for this podcast. Or you can sign up on Substack for free and get the audio version a day later. Link in the video description box below.